That looks pretty good. What are you drinking there, Adam?
Oh, this is we got ourselves an iced coffee here,
Ooh,
floating voice in the sky, and so it's lighter on bottom on account of some cookies and cream milk
yeah.
going on here. Did you know that they do that? Like they sell bottles of milk. They're like pre-flavored,
Wow.
like cookies and cream.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
didn't know.
and like no, and it's got to be great for the cow, right? Because
Yeah.
they just get to eat cookies all day, and then that's what they, yeah.
I don't think that's. No, I'm sure that's not how that works.
You mean to tell me that they make the cow out of cookie? Because that's
Iowa Sports Review is brought to you today by Daniel Marks, licensed sales representative with United Healthcare. Turning 65? Welcome to Medicare. Call Daniel at 515-519-0040, TTY 711.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Jacobi. This is the Iowa Sports Review. And I am of GoIowaAwesome.com. And today is our Wednesday night show, our flagship midweek show. And it's a bye week, as you can probably tell. One, because you know things about Iowa football, and two, we've got the neutral colors on here. This is the Bayside Tigers. If you know, you know. Beep 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 beep, beep go Bayside. But this is our call-in show, our chat show, podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it. The most important thing is that it is for all of you. So hop on into the chat area. So that's going to be below or to the right of the whole stream thing. And let's hear your hot takes here in the bye week. There's probably a lot to talk about, isn't there? So, but yeah, this is our bye week, and I would say first things first from my end. If you had told me that Iowa would be going into the bye week 6-1, 10th or 11th or whatever they are in the polls, with 3 wins over ranked teams, I would like that. I would have taken that at the beginning of the year. And I also would have thought that you're one of those creepy gambler types. Like, because otherwise you can't offer me that unless you're rigging the games, and rigging games is bad. That's just my thought. That's just my thought. But I would have taken that in a heartbeat. And it's nice to know that there are the types of goals that a team like this would have set out at the beginning of the season, which is to win the Big Ten, which is to go to the Rose Bowl, double-digit wins, certainly to win the Big Ten West. All of those things are still well within grasp for the Hawkeyes. Do they have a lot of things to work on? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Anyone who watched that Purdue game could tell you that this team sort of ran out of borrowed time in terms of getting by and getting wins. A lot to work on there. But it's nice to, still be 6-1 with a lot of things to work on. So as long as we're still there, there's no reason not to keep enjoying this. Saturday was not fun. We all know that. But if you let something like that take the enjoyment out of your fan experience for longer than 48 hours, I would ask you to revise that stance. Because again, they still have 3 wins over teams that were ranked at the time. The Penn State game still happened, and it was still wonderful. So yeah, I say don't worry. I say be happy. Someone ought to make a song about that. That sounds like a good song. But anyway, I believe that hopefully some folks have hopped into the hopefully we got some folks in the chat here and we can start reading some hot takes, some questions, and all of that good stuff. So again, this is a show for all of you, and a little bit for my ego, a little self pat on the back there, but by and large, we do this for all of you. So hop on into the chat, fire away with whatever you got, and while you're there, maybe tap a little bit on the like button. That tells YouTube good things about us. And if you haven't already, go ahead and match that subscribe if you're enjoying yourself here. Because once again, that tells YouTube that we've got a fun and growing community that deserves to be in front of more eyeballs, and that's the best way to let YouTube know that. And we're already above 150 subscribers, so we're doing something right at the very least. And we want to be able to share that with as many people as possible, get that chat section bumping. So go ahead, do all the nice things for us. It makes us feel good, and it makes the channel grow as well. And we thank you for your support. If you're already one of our 150 whatever subscribers, it means the world to us that we've got your level of support right there. So with that, get this party started, buddy. Telling you, iced coffee. That's how you do it. That's how you do it with the cookies and cream. No better way to party on a Wednesday night, if you ask me. If you'd taken 6-1 before the season started, yeah, again, absolutely would have taken that. And I mean, honestly, a whole lot of us would have taken 1-1. I'm old enough to remember the preseason of 2021 here when we were looking at Iowa and Indiana, or excuse me, Iowa State and Indiana as the first two opponents, and rightfully so, seeing how Iowa had played against their sacrifices in the last decade or so to begin seasons. Rightfully so, we were concerned that starting a season with Indiana and then a trip to Iowa State could derail the whole thing before it ever got started. Clearly didn't happen. Clearly, that was not the case. So, I mean, it stings on account of recency bias, right? Like Iowa's on a 1-game losing streak, and so it's easy to be pessimistic about that. But again, absolutely, 6-1 is still awesome. Still totally in the driver's seat for the Big Ten West. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to sell their tickets to Indianapolis or cancel their hotel reservations, anything like that. They're still in control there. They are. It's a nice little reminder, mind you, that none of the 5 games left are worth taking for granted, not even Northwestern. But now, at the very least, this team has the experience of getting, smacked in the mouth by an opponent at home, and not really being able to do anything about it. So, at the very least, I think it's reasonable to expect that their level of concentration is going to be where it needs to be. Hopefully, they've been receptive to teaching moments, coaching moments, as it will. And, Kirk hasn't, this isn't his first day on the job. This isn't his first season. So at the very least, I expect that they know what to do with their adversity when they get to it. So absolutely still looking forward to how the season progresses from here. I will be in Madison for the game, the Halloween week game there. So that should be interesting. And again, I think we take Wisconsin lightly at our own peril. Obviously their offense stinks, but so does Iowa's, and their defense is awesome, and so is Iowa's. So I mean, it's going to be a rock fight, somewhere between a rock and a wrench, just swinging like just a caveman fight of a football game. And I'm looking forward to that. I am. Might as well. When will Iowa recruit a QB that can use their feet? That's a good question, Clinton. And good to see you again. Good to see you in brighter spirits than Saturday. Good to share those brighter spirits with you as well. That's a good question. And, it seems like not too long ago, the Hawkeyes were still recruiting mobile quarterbacks. I mean, you could say that about CJ Beathard. He basically turned that game. I think that was the one that was at Iowa State. He turned that one around with his feet. Alex Padilla, backup quarterback, but he's there. And part of what made him attractive as a quarterback was being able to improvise on his feet. I don't know anything about whether Deuce Hogan, we know that he's brought in to be a passer first, but by and large, to your point, no, Iowa does not feature a running quarterback all that often, and certainly doesn't recruit that way. And it can be a little frustrating, especially when we see other teams with their mobile quarterbacks, and it can be easy to say, I want that, give me, give. But for whatever reason, it seems like the Iowa coaching staff, and this is going to be a little bit of speculation on my part, and so don't take it as pure facts. It's not necessarily an informed opinion, but having been around this scene for as long as I have an idea. And my guess is they don't feel confident in their ability to identify mobile quarterbacks who are going to succeed at the next level as much as they are confident in their ability to identify the pocket passers. And I might be wrong. I just want to be clear. But the fact that we don't see them go that way in recruiting very often, or at the very least, we don't see them win those recruiting battles. Certainly, we don't see that. Probably says a lot in terms of where they want their program to be. And how well they think they can get themselves there. I wouldn't ascribe it to anything, more nefarious than that. I think they've earned that benefit of the doubt by and large. They did. As I recall, they did recruit Jalen Suggs, the kid who went to Gonzaga, who is also a pretty well thought of quarterback as well. But obviously, an athlete. An elite athlete at that. And unfortunately, we saw him on the wrong side of the hardwood in Sioux Falls when that game happened. But, at the very least, I think they are able to, at the very least, identify, hey, Jalen Suggs would be good to have on our football team. Turns out he's good to have on your basketball team, too. Very good. But there is some stuff that we don't see, but I also think that they, for whatever reason, this program has always been about paying less attention to recruiting rankings and more attention to, we want this guy because we think he can do A, B, and C. Right. And so I think they know their A, B, and C with quarterbacks better passing out of the pocket than being able to freelance, if you will. That's my read of it anyway. And again, for the fifth time, I'll say it. I could be wrong, but I think that's where it is. Clinton, another good question. Who do I dislike more, Northwestern or Nebraska? Oh, this is good. This is good. Thank you. It's definitely two different types of dislike. So on some level it's hard to compare the two. And it's also a little bit hard to compare the two because Northwestern has actually beaten Iowa recently. The other ones haven't. Ask them about it. But I certainly get more enjoyment out of the rivalry aspect of Nebraska than I do Northwestern. Um, like I don't even get perverse enjoyment out of Northwestern being in the Big Ten. I I could do without them. I get annoyed by them, which is different from like actively disliking them. Like I really dislike Iowa State. I really dislike Nebraska. Like I look forward to Iowa beating them, taking the trophy, hoisting it up. I look forward to all four trophies, and it makes me happy. And this is not a healthy mindset. I don't encourage all of this, but I do have to admit that it makes me a little bit happy when losing teams as fans, especially ones that I don't know, we play for a trophy, when they get upset about Iowa and they just let their feelings out on social media, and it's kind of funny. Um it lets me know that I'm in the right place. We'll put it that way. But I don't get that same enjoyment out of Northwestern fans being upset. Um, they because they Northwestern fans are like Mike Wilbon, Darren Rovell. Like, why would unless you went there, why would you ever choose to be a Northwestern fan? Like, just get them out of the Big Ten. I just put them in the MAC. Ugh. Ugh. Like, I don't want to see Iowa and Northwestern play ever again. And it's not on account of the wins and the losses. It's just like Northwestern, 80% of their home games draw more opposing fans than their own. And like the other 20% are against like Illinois State or teams that don't actually have fan bases like the MAC. That's like it's so weird that is not like terminally embarrassing to them and to the conference that they can't even field a decent home crowd. Like they never do. They never do. The stadium is a joke. It's and it's so part of me it just gets annoyed whenever they do win a game because they shouldn't. Like there's no on paper that Northwestern should never win a Big Ten game on paper, but they find weird Northwestern ways to do it, and it often involves injuring Iowa's players, is what it is. But like I don't enjoy Iowa beating Northwestern the way I enjoy Iowa beating Nebraska. I just don't. I don't. So it's two different levels of dislike. At the very least, my dislike for Nebraska is something I enjoy. It feels fun. It feels like it's part of a rivalry. Um, I don't know, and I think like with Northwestern, it's like getting in an argument with a BMW that's parked down the block. Like what good does that do you? You just look crazy. So that's my interpretation of it. That went on quite a while. Are we gonna have a lot of fans in Madtown going for the first time this year? Oh, dude, that's awesome. I'm certainly going to be there. 4 years running, or 4 games running, 4 games in 7 years. Man, that is a lot to think about all of a sudden. But you'll enjoy yourself. You'll genuinely enjoy it there. And typically, it's about 15% Iowa fans in the stands. Like it's overwhelmingly Wisconsin. Don't get me wrong, but if you start, clapping your hands in the stands, there's going to be some Iowa fans around you for sure. But it's a really fun environment, and I was not really like, everybody knows about the jump around, but Wisconsin keeps that crowd going for all 4 quarters in a way that I was not really expecting my first time there. Hopefully, they still do their little sing along with the "Build Me Up Buttercup" song, which, like, again, on paper doesn't sound like it's fun, doesn't sound like it's going to be good, but there's something about a student section like keeping that going for another couple minutes after, like, they cut the PA feed of the song off. I mean, like, pretty much any song that's sung a cappella with like 20,000 people is going to sound cool. But that one in particular, an inspired choice, way better than "Hey Jude." And I'm happy to report that we don't do "Hey Jude" at Kinnick anymore. Like, that was a little bit lame. We can say it now. But no, Wisconsin's great, legitimately great. Like, I don't think there's a college town in the Big Ten other than Iowa City. I don't think there's anywhere else in the Big Ten that I would rather watch a game than Camp Randall and in Madison. And I know that's saying a lot. Like, better than West Lafayette, huh? I know. But and I also say that having never been to Columbus on game day or anything like that. But I don't feel drawn to Columbus for a game the way that Madison just draws me. It's such a fun experience. And hopefully at the very least you can be like somewhere safe before the sun goes down, because that town gets after it at night, and I am too old for that. So Clinton asks, does Brian Ferentz have more than 6 plays in his book? Of course. Look, say what you will about Brian Ferentz, he's got like half a dozen reverses in like end arounds alone. Like, he loves those little trick plays whenever he gets to use them. The problem is, one, not very often, and two, the base plays, they're not good enough at them to begin with. And I would also like to see, to to your point, I would definitely enjoy seeing more, I don't know, downfield passing, using the seams, post routes. You remember those? I do. Those are fun. It seems like we haven't seen one of those like Brad Banks play action post routes in about, I don't know, 5 years more. It's all 1 yard outs and other low reward, high risk pass plays. And I do hope that changes somehow, some way. Because it's, I mean, how can you not be frustrated? And for as much as it felt like Iowa was turning the system on its head by punting instead of going for points, on account of how good Torrey Taylor was, at the end of the day, this is a points-based game. And possession usually matters more than field position, even against a defense like Iowa's. And Purdue made that plainly clear. Purdue. So hopefully, at the very least, the sort of extremist punter tactics, and listen, I'm team punting is winning all day, don't get me wrong, but hopefully there's been a little bit of a strategic correction there. We'll put it that way. And yeah, why is Iowa so bad on first down? I don't know. Maybe it's a lack of creativity. Maybe it's predictability. Maybe I'm obviously not in those rooms. I don't know how much Iowa plays to tendency on first downs, especially compared to second or third or what have you. Coaches know. Opposing coaches know. That is like, it's not the glamorous part of coaching, but all that film grinding and numbers, stats, but learning another team's tendencies is why coaches work 100-hour weeks during the season. It's not just yelling at their players, although there is plenty of that. And there's obviously your own film to watch, but most of it is just studying the other team. And I fear that Iowa is easier to study than other teams. Now, they can make up for that if they've got superior talent, if they do the things that they do, the predictable things, if they do those so well that you just can't stop them. And that's not just like me coming up with scenarios in my head. Doing the things that people can predict, but doing them so well that you can't stop them was basically Wisconsin's MO for the last 25 years, right? It is a formula for success. Same thing went with Nebraska in the 80s and 90s. Oh my goodness, a triple option? Who ever heard of such a thing? Like, even if you know the play, even if Tommy Frazier was going to walk up there and say, hey, we're running this exact, like, we're going to be hitting these gaps, you couldn't stop them because they executed them so well. And Iowa's offensive line does not execute those things that well, not nearly that well. So they've got a lot of growth. And again, I've said plenty of times that I think that they are capable of it. But it seems like they were thrown into a situation with only one real, like, ready to go superstar lineman this year. Linderbaum is going to win the Remington. As long as he stays healthy and doesn't rob any banks or orphanages, he's good. He'll be all right. And again, I've said this before, but I do have confidence in the other four and the rest of the two deep for getting there eventually. I think this line in a year and especially in 2 years is going to be terrifying. And I'm not saying that so we can just punt on 2021. This might be an 11-win team in the regular season. At that, they could still go to the Rose Bowl, and it's not even implausible that they would. So I'm not trying to water down expectations for the rest of the season. I'm not. But it seems like the offensive line right now is not where it needs to be in order to run the sort of offense that Kirk and Brian want to run. And you can't really undo that in a week's time. You can't take a bye week and just install an air raid or something like that. That only works on Madden. Man, okay, listen, I've known who that John Johnston guy is for as long as we've been blogging. Even back when we started on SBN, like, that site was one of the earliest ones to get there and still be there, especially on the college football side. In fact, I think they're even older than Black Heart Gold Pants. So like, we knew who he was, and we knew that he was sort of a live wire. We'll put it that way. I may have blocked him on Twitter long ago, and it was better for everybody that I did. But man, I don't know, like, that was so bleak, the stuff that was coming out of his mouth, that I almost felt sorry for him. But again, it's Nebraska, so there's only so much. But I mean, it was funny. And the amount of the amount of Nebraska fans that were genuinely upset that it made it to the pages of the I almost called them the Athletic, made it even funnier. Especially when Mitch Sherman, the Athletic writer for Nebraska, was just like, "Hey man, it's a bye week," and he's right. Like, I don't know, like, there's no game to preview. We might as well pay attention to things that other people are paying attention to. So I thought that was funny. Anyway, all right. So we are about a half hour into this bad boy. So just a little refresh for everybody. My name is Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. You are watching the Iowa Sports Review. I always want to say Sports Report because it rhymes. You are watching the Iowa Sports Review. This is our Wednesday call-in, hot take, webcast, whatever you want to call it. Webcast is probably right. But anyway, this is a show for all of you. So while you're here, while you're watching, if you're enjoying it, just go ahead and throw us a little like and hit a little subscribe button if you haven't already. It makes us feel good in our little hearts of hearts. And it also helps support us and helps get us in front of more eyes thanks to the YouTube algorithms. So it's not just to make us feel good; it's to make our community grow and have more people to talk to. We also have quite a fun little announcement here. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. It's bi-week Saturday. So instead of a post-game this or that, we have a special guest, and I'm genuinely psyched about this. The artist Jeff McNutt, the Art of the Hawkeyes guy, and if you're not familiar with this guy, he makes some of the coolest Hawkeye artwork that you've ever seen, up to and including artwork that is in the new press box that used concrete from the old press box in the paint mixes, which sounds insane. But the end result is something that looks really cool, and I think all Hawkeye fans are really going to enjoy being able to see that. So join us Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Jeff McNutt, Art of the Hawkeyes. Really, really excited for that special guest. And then the Wednesday after that, the Wednesday before Wisconsin, we have Chuck Long, the Chuck Long. Yes, him. He started a podcast with I think it's Voice of the Hawkeyes, or it might be Hawkeye Report. I gotta check on that. we want to get that promo right. But anyway, he's been doing a really good job of telling his former stories and getting back to being as great of an ambassador for the Iowa Hawkeyes, football, college football in general, and sports in the state of Iowa in general as well. So we're really, really looking forward to those two special guests coming up on, I guess on our next two shows, or at the very least the next two that I'm on. Take that, Tom. But anyway, please join us for those. We are super excited, and we think that the fan interaction is going to be especially special for all of you. So again, that's why we ask for things like likes and for subscriptions and this and that. The more people that we can have to come over, interact with our guests, interact with me, have a good time, the better it is for the Hawkeye sports community as a whole. And so, people like me and Tom and our producer, we feel good about it too, but at the end of the day, that's secondary. There's lots of things I can do to feel good about myself that don't involve, 150 subscribers. I could just stare in the mirror for the next 2 hours. I would feel good about that. I'm a handsome man, but at the end of the day, we're doing this for all of you. Don't ever forget it. Clinton asks, will we have Riley Moss back for the Wisconsin game? Hopefully. I don't think that they've made any announcements on that. And, part of what's making his availability possible is having another full week of rest. So my guess is they're going to make that determination much, much closer to game time. I will say that, and I'm absolutely guilty of saying that, things like, well, Riley Moss gets interceptions because no one wants to throw at Matt Hankins. Part of that is that, quarterbacks, when they would look around the secondary, they'd be like, well, at the very least, we have a fighting chance throwing against number 33. Except when they don't. But anyone who thought that this team would be fine without Moss, that Terry Roberts would do well in his absence. And believe me, the Purdue loss was not on Terry Roberts' shoulders. Don't get that twisted. The entire defense takes a little bit of responsibility for that. But all I'm going to say is not even this Iowa defense has the luxury of losing a starting cornerback and having everything be absolutely dandy. Right? Like there's a reason why Moss is always on the field to begin with. And so having that loss, and which is not just a matter of, we'll replace him with Roberts. 22 is fine, but that loss sort of gets amplified down the depth chart the more cornerbacks that they have on the field, because you're basically shifting everybody up by one. And so if all you've got is two cornerbacks, then fine. But if you start getting into these like nickels, dimes, if they're out five wide, there's going to be somebody not named Roberts that is on the field for Iowa in the secondary where you're like, oh man, I really wish we had Moss instead. So that's what I mean about the effects being felt on down the line. So yeah, I mean, I really do hope we get Riley Moss back and we can sort of get rid of the notion that he wasn't all that important to this defense in the first place. I think most people knew better than that, but after he got injured, there were some people who said, well, next man in, and Kirk Ferentz might be one of them. Next man in is a great thing to tell your student athletes. I hate that term. Why did I say that? It's a nice thing to tell your players. It keeps them motivated, but there are real losses in what they want to do personnel wise without Moss being available. That just is what it is. Yeah, boy, the throwing short of the sticks. I often wonder how many other teams deal with that, right? Because the TV schedules being what they are, I usually only watch any of the other teams, no more than twice a season. So I don't get an accurate read in terms of their offensive frustrations. We'll put it that way. As Ray mentioned in the comments, it's like they're point shaving. Wouldn't go that far, but I'd go awfully close. Now, point shaving implies that they're doing it intentionally. And Hanlon's razor is one of my favorite sayings of all time. Hanlon's razor says, never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by ineptitude. Which is to say, they're not crooked, they're just not good. and you would think that they would be able to, gear their offense better, gear toward, I don't know, scoring more than 30 points a game every now and then. But that's not what we have. So, and the throws short of the sticks are definitely part of what makes that frustrating, because usually, like, not only are they short of the sticks, but the receivers are running laterally to the line to gain, and they're usually, pretty well covered too. So whenever I mention things like the low reward, high risk pass plays, that's often part of it. And the fact that these come on third downs, you can see why Iowa fans get frustrated, because it seems like there wasn't really a workable plan in place to begin with, right? It seems like these guys aren't being placed in position to succeed when that's the play call. Now full disclosure here, even as a 1-year D3 college football player myself, and not a good one at that, there's so much more that the coaches know about, certain strategic decisions, where their leverage actually is, what is the highest, percentage of success, running this, that, blah, 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 whatever. I'm sure that they have more sophisticated data and a more sophisticated knowledge of the situational down distance, this, that, than I do. I assume that's the case. They better, because they make millions of dollars to do this stuff. So that all I am, as somebody running our Twitter account put it, I don't know who it was either, but as somebody running the Go Iowa Awesome Twitter account mentioned in the frustrations after the Purdue loss, like, just because we think coaches are capable of performing better doesn't mean that we think we're capable of doing their job better than them. But if the shortcomings are obvious to us, they should really be obvious to coaches and, be workable for them. And the fact that we see these patterns of, not just low scores, but really low yardage numbers, which I think is even more worrying. And you can explain some of it with Iowa playing field position games, but not all of it. And at the end of the day, if your offense is consistently like 90th or 100th in FBS in total yards, that should be cause for alarm, no matter how good your defense is. And those two stats, offensive yards per game, defensive yards per game, those two are not quite mutually exclusive, but they're exclusive enough that a team can be number one in both, right? Like, having a good defense isn't predicated on your offense stinking up the joint 10 games out of 12 every year. It's not. Gosh, the great Oklahoma teams used to be, I think the 88 Oklahoma team was number one in both yards per game and yards allowed per game, or maybe it was points and points allowed. Either way, it is possible to be great at both. And if I was consistently great on defense and consistently mediocre on offense, I've needed to sneeze for about the last 5 minutes, so that's why I'm sounding very nasal right now. But it's bad manners to sneeze on camera. Anyway, if Iowa is consistently great on defense, consistently mediocre on offense, one of those things you can work on without affecting the other. And the fact that this has been the case for so long informs how frustrated Iowa fans are when we see it not progress. And again, some of that has to do with an offensive line that is, I don't know, not really up to the task as much as we wanted them to be at the beginning of the year. But I've seen them do mediocre things with great offensive lines too. So, yeah, if I could diagnose the exact problem and tell you what the fix is, I wouldn't be on a webcam right now. I'd be making millions of dollars for the football team, right? Like, don't confuse this for Adam thinks he knows better than the coaches. I don't. Like, don't let that distract you. But I do know when results are not good enough, and that seems to be the case here. Well, that's an interesting. Put Nicholas's comment back on there for me real quick. Thank you, producer man. The assistant coach's press conferences today, I did not see. Ferentz made it sound like the linemen aren't ready for the whole playbook. That wouldn't surprise me. And I think that we've also seen that from the skill position players too. I don't want to call out a true freshman, but especially during the Penn State game, being able to watch the field and watch the plays unfold. There were a couple times where a true freshman who had been on the field probably didn't understand his assignment, or went about 80% of the way on a block where he had to be hauling rear end from the get-go. So it would not surprise me if there are linemen who are also still struggling with the enormity of whatever the playbook is. And if that is part of the reason why we see sort of a simplified, predictable offense from this team, okay. I mean, I get it. I understand it. I don't like it, and I think that there's got to be a way around that. But at the very least, I can understand that, and it might sound like throwing your players under the bus, but at the very least, he's talking about reasonable expectations that coaches have for players, right? That is they're trying to get these guys. Again, this is a developmental program. They love to tell us that. So they're trying to get these guys from like point A to point B, C, D, in terms of understanding not only what the assignment is, but why the assignment is. And especially on the offensive line, that is knowing why you're supposed to do certain things and knowing what the four guys next to you are going to do and why they're going to do it makes such a huge difference for for how well that line operates. It's no surprise that offensive linemen typically score the highest on your Wonderlic tests, or they're stereotypically, at least 20 years ago, they were the nerds, the high GPA guys, and that's because you sort of have to be aware of sort of a larger area. You have to be aware of that whole line. You have to make quick blitz reads and know not only that linebacker's coming this way, but why the linebacker's coming this way. Why is he blitzing? Like, is it straight pass rush? Is it something that try to get me shifted away from the defensive end that is the real threat here? So it's it's not unlike chess, except you use your hands to hurt people. So in that way, it's not at all like chess. But there is a lot of strategy that goes into it. And so if the linemen aren't understanding the why yet, it at the very least helps explain why we see like one-on-one blocking matchups that shouldn't exist, like George Karlaftis against name anybody. The fact that they were singling Karlaftis during the Purdue game just astonished me. And I get that some of that is just scheme stuff, but also like it's okay to double team him. He's by far their best defensive lineman. Just throw another tight end at him. Just do the thing. Do the thing. Please do thing. Please block thing. See, again, I am not as sophisticated as the coaches. I just sit back and do block. Get the guy. Get him. Oh, buddy, we've had Go Iowa Awesome merch for a while now. In fact, if I were not live at this moment, I'd go run and get my very awesome beanie hat. But that is absolutely a thing. Hang on one second here. Go Iowa Awesome.com. That's the song that I sing myself. Okay. So if you go to oh, you know what? I can put this on the screen. Ooh, share screen. Isn't this fun? Don't show these tips again. Okay, this is going to take longer than I thought. I just recently updated my operating system. That was part of the technical difficulties from a couple weeks ago for the Maryland game. But the oh, bugger. Okay, so we can't do this unless I shut down my thing, which is going to shut down the stream. So we're not going to be able to do that. I will tell you this. If you just go to You can just go to goiowaawesome.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a link there that says buy our killer merch. And I'm going to try to say this one, go iowaawesome.com. So that's the URL for the shop. And so it's like go Iowa Awesome, but it's the word buy instead of the letter I in Iowa. Do you get it? It's wordplay. Play on words. Go Iowa Awesome. You get it? Anyway, we've got fun hats. We've got fun shirts. We've even got a cycling jersey. Like, it looks good too. It looks really good. So bike with us. Bike wearing our merch. It's fun stuff. Oh yeah. Where did I play my 1 year of D3 ball? I played it at the not Ivy League Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa. Lovely town, lovely college. I was in way over my head, and I was not going to succeed. And part of that is, there's a lot of time management that goes into college athletics to begin with, much more than even high school athletics, which I was not prepared for that to begin with. 2, Cornell College does this one class at a time sort of situation where for 3.5 weeks, you only take one course, but you get your credits for that out of the way. Like, so every 4 weeks, essentially, you're getting 3 hours of credits or 4 hours of credits. And so there's 9 terms of those, classes over the course of the year. And as long as you pass like 8 of them, you're on track to graduate. But that being said, from my standpoint, it meant that there would be days where I would get up at 5 a.m. to go lift. And then, it's breakfast, class, lunch, class, practice, dinner, film. I get home, it's 8 p.m. I've been up since 5. And then I have 250 pages of French to read for the next morning. And I would just be like, no, I don't have 250 pages of French in me. And it was D3 20 years ago. Yeah, I am that old. And so, we didn't have tutors. we didn't have, study table or anything like that. All of the advantages that D1 athletes have earned, don't get me wrong, they've earned it, but all those things that help them get through their classes, no. So I was a pretty quick transfer to the University of Iowa after that. Full contact chess sounds like fun. Yeah, man. So there is a sport with that. It's called chess boxing. You can probably guess what the 2 elements of that one are. But I mean, it's we play a few plays of chess and then we hit each other. And it's kind of great. Like Wu-Tang did a song about it and everything. The art of chess boxing. Hello to all of you on twitter.com. Hi, we know you're watching. Head on over to the YouTube link. There should be a link right there at the very least on one of our previous tweets. And hop in the chat. Gosh, if you're going to give us your beautiful, beautiful eyes, which I'm getting lost in right now. As long as we've got your eyes, we'd like your fingers as well. We'd like your voice. So hop on over to YouTube and hop on into the chat here. It's a fun time. It's good stuff. Join us. And yeah, so as Nick mentions here, Nick, are you kin to Travis by any chance? Because I know Travis Wilkening, or I knew him. I guess I haven't talked to him in solid 15 years. But anyway, yeah, he needs to call more plays to get the ball in the hands of athletes like Tracy and Keaton Johnson. So he's aware. Yeah, of course. I have never been under the impression that Brian Ferentz doesn't know when the offense stinks. Like we see the same stats that he does. And, we see targets, he sees targets. Anything that we see, we have a reasonable expectation of him knowing as well. There was one, in fact, that one of my favorite stories was about Urban Meyer when he was at Notre Dame. And he was just I think he was just a wide receivers coach, might have been offensive coordinator, maybe even just a grad assistant. Anyway, but he was just an assistant at Notre Dame, hadn't been a head coach yet, and they had played a particularly tough game that week, and they ended up losing. And their offense had a pretty rough time. And so he sees his star receiver, whose name I certainly am not going to remember. But I don't think it was Tim Brown or Rocket Ishmael. That's my only. I'm doing a great job of telling this story. Anyway, but he sees whoever their star receiver was at that time, especially dejected after the game. And so he's like, "Hey, you doing all right? Like, you good?" And he says, "Coach, they didn't throw the ball at me at all. Like, I never got to touch the ball." And so he thinks about it, and sure enough, like the other team, it might have been Michigan, had effectively schemed their best receiver out of the game. And he decided that was unacceptable. So that was part of why he had such innovative offenses at Utah and Florida, and even Ohio State. Was if you've got matchup winners, you have to get them the ball one way or another, and it doesn't always work as intended. I mean, Penn State was trying that with Jahan Dotson, and he ended up with 8 catches for 48 yards. Maybe it was 58. But anyway, like, he had some really low productivity numbers. But they did get him the ball 8 times. Now, some of that was like schemed RPO stuff, those throws to the boundaries. But, I mean, he still got 8 touches. So, at the very least, I think that is better than, looking over and seeing, 4 targets, 1 catch, 14 yards for your best receiver. So, yeah, it is reassuring. It's comforting that Brian Ferentz understands that his best players need to touch the ball more often. Tyler Goodson's one of them too. And the more that they can set up screen plays, quick routes for him, the arrow route, I believe they're often called, if the weak side linebacker or safety isn't playing up on that. Goodson's definitely athletic enough to really take advantage of that. All of which is to say, there are so many ways to get your best player the ball. And for whatever reason, we haven't seen it yet from Iowa. And Brian Ferentz is aware. Make of that what you will. Whatever. Oh yeah, Clinton. Man, the cycling jersey is it's on sale and everything too. So I mean, listen, I'm not going to come right out and say, if you buy that jersey, you'll be good enough at riding a bicycle that you'll win the Tour de France. But I'm not saying that won't happen either. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Just buy the jersey. Buy it. Buy it. Okay, Nick. We aren't all related. That's ridiculous. Anyway, well, hopefully you get to meet Travis one day. Nice guy, as I recall. Nice guy. Wow, it is already 9 p.m. or something very close to it. So just a quick little recap for all of you who are in here. My name is Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. I'm a little stuffed up right now. This is the Iowa Sports Review. And this is our Wednesday night flagship show. We are here for all of you, for your hot thoughts, hot takes, questions, as we cruise on into the bye week. 6-1, highly ranked, still in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West. listen, I understand everybody's frustrations, and I share most of them too. But at the end of the day, 6-1 is 6-1. And you look around college football, and there's a whole lot of teams that don't have it better than that. A whole lot of teams that think they should, but don't. So, and gosh, 3 wins against ranked opponents that people can never really take away from this team. So, we don't know what the rest of the season is going to hold for us. We don't know. I mean, maybe the bottom has already dropped out. Maybe they're going to lose their next 5 games. I hope not. Maybe they have. It still gets them in a bowl. Still, but at the very least, even if that happens, Iowa Penn State also happened, and that was as close to a religious experience as I've ever had in Kinnick Stadium. So there's so much to have already enjoyed about this season that I feel like from here on out, it's pretty much all gravy. Now, that being said, I'm not going to be happy if it ends on a 6-game losing streak, or I guess 7-game after the bowl. Nobody wants that. Obviously, nobody wants that unless you live in Ames, or Western Iowa, Eastern Nebraska, Western Nebraska. Those are the only people that want that. But we've seen so much cool stuff already happen with this team that, at the end of the day, you just got to sort of be like, yeah, the season's going well. Season's going well. As we said at the beginning of the show, hands raised if you would take 6-1, like, yeah, absolutely would have. Totally. Yeah, Luke Lachey, boy, they missed him. He is maybe even too rambunctious of a blocker. He enjoys it in a way that, like, not even TJ Hawkinson enjoyed blocking. He looks like a lineman out there. Like, he's not big enough to be a lineman. And frankly, I like having somebody with that sort of oomph and that little nasty streak. I like having them at tight end more than I like having them at tackle. So I'm not saying move Lachey to the line. I am saying I really like it when he blocks. So yeah, absolutely agree. Hopefully we get him back soon. Oh boy, ISU winning out would put us in the top 5 if Hawkeyes don't lose another. Boy, Iowa State's good enough to do it too. It was easy to write them off after that Baylor loss, and I would recommend, like, you are going to have to take the rest of their season with a pretty hefty grain of salt, because they are already sitting at 2 losses, and neither of them they looked all that great in. And some of their wins have been a little bit stinky too. We can admit that, but some of their wins have been great, and you can sort of see why this team had so much hype going into the season, more hype than Iowa did. You can start to understand that they are starting to get a little bit better. I do think Iowa State's going to be ranked by the end of the season. They certainly earned their way out of the top 25. Don't get me wrong. But I think by the end of it, by the bowl game, all of that stuff, I don't think they're capable of winning the Big 12. They might be in the championship game, but I don't think they're going to win it this year. I don't. But don't be surprised if they're a top 15 team by the end of the season. Don't be surprised at all. And they might even be knocking on the door of the top 10. We don't know. Like, a whole lot of that has to do with the rest of college football. And there have been a lot of losses handed out to top 25 teams already. So the fact that Iowa State's sitting at 2, and really the fact that Iowa's sitting at 1, is great. It's great for football in the state of Iowa. That is better leverage, better positioning for the end of the season than I think that we really have acknowledged. So, if nothing else, keep that wind in your sails, because the season's not over, not by a long shot. and some really, really good things can keep happening for this Iowa team. So, with that, it looks like our chat is winding down, and I will be happy to take that opportunity to wind down with all of y'all. It is after 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night. That's bedtime, babies. So thank you all for joining us. One more time, my name is Adam Jacobi, GoIowaAwesome.com. This is the Iowa Sports Review. We are thankful for all for having joined us, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, some pirated radio station. Please don't do that. If you've enjoyed your time here with us, go ahead and mash that little like button. YouTube likes to know that. It's still not at the mind reading stage. Give that a couple years. Until then, go ahead and hit that like. Subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications for whenever we're going live, because we like to do that, and we're doing it 3 times a week, and always looking to do more. So like, subscribe, notifications. Thank you all for joining us this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday evening. I've had my windows open. It's been a little bit cloudy, a little bit rainy, but it's beautiful all the same. Thank you for joining us. Go Iowa Awesome. Go Hawks. Good night.